Hello, everyone. You're listening to Baby Steps, sponsored by Soho and Oxford Baby, a podcast dedicated to exploring the personal and emotional journeys of parenting. Today, I have Nika. Nika is a mom, first time mom, new mom of a 4 week old. Nika, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming. So, let's start from the very beginning. When did you first suspect that you might be pregnant, or you know, or the moment you found out,
Yeah.
whatever.
The thing is, I didn't even know I was pregnant.
Okay.
So my partner was the one that said something. I'm always irregular, so I'm
Yeah.
always late. But this time around, I was a little bit moodier than usual.
Hmm.
And I didn't know I was pregnant until I was like 2 months pregnant, like 2 months in.
Really? So,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so you just decided to take a test, or like you just started to feel different, or
No, I
just
didn't
because he
feel,
said something?
yeah, because he said something. So usually I would take pregnancy tests like every month just to be
Yeah.
sure. But I always see the negative line. So I'm like, all right, like this is gonna be another negative. Like we're just wasting money on pregnancy tests.
Yeah.
But he finally said something, so I'm like, okay, I'll just do it. I'll just take the test.
Hmm.
And before I can even set the test down, it was positive. Like
Wow. So you had no morning sick, no other, now that you found out you were pregnant, could you look
uh-huh.
back at that first 2 months and say, hey, besides the missed cycle, right? Because you're
Yeah.
irregular. So that wasn't really an indication to you.
Yeah.
But like, okay, well, I really didn't feel well. Or I really was kind of like just not myself. Like, was there anything that you now look back on and say, hey, yeah, here was a sign. I just ignored it.
I think it was my breasts hurting. Like
Okay.
they were so tender. But
Hmm.
again, during periods, you could have
Right.
that. So I
Right.
thought that everything that I was feeling, I'm tired, I'm moody, my
Yeah.
breasts hurt. I'm
Yep.
thinking, oh, okay, my period is coming. I didn't
Right.
think it was because I was pregnant.
So the second that you found out that you were pregnant, were you by yourself? Were you guys together?
We were actually together. We were
Okay.
together and
So
we
what was
literally,
the reaction? Was it like complete shock? Was it happy? I mean, of course, was
yeah.
it happiness? Was it nervousness? Like, what was the reaction? Did you
We
cry? Was
actually, I cried. I definitely cried. And then Daniel freaked out a little bit, only because we weren't expecting it.
right,
And then I was supposed to go to pharmacy school this year, so I was like, oh my gosh, what
right,
about school? Like, what am I
right,
supposed to do?
right,
And it was just a lot of uncertainty with a baby.
right,
So I think we were just more so scared than anything,
right.
um, when
So
we
how
first
did you
found out.
ease your mind in the pressure of say, okay, well, here's a joyous thing, right? This is,
Yeah.
ultimately this is what we want. So like, how did you not like, at what point did you say, okay, pharmacy school, this can all work out, right? Like this can
Yeah.
eventually, I don't have to put off my dreams of going to pharmacy
Yes.
school. Like at what point was that like immediately? Was it after a few months? Like at what point did you kind of like digest it all and say, we can do this?
I think it was after, definitely after a few months. So maybe when I was like 4 months pregnant, I realized that if as long as you really want something, you can
Right.
achieve it. Because I actually was going to school while I was pregnant. Like
Okay.
I was taking summer classes,
Yeah.
and I thought to myself, if I can do this while pregnant, then I can do it as a mom. And a lot of people have done it as a mom.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. How did you feel like the first trimester? I know you were almost halfway through the first one when you found out,
yeah,
but I mean, besides the obvious side of the tender birth, did you have any nausea the first trimester, or
I
is it like,
did.
did it come as soon as you found out, like, okay, here come all the symptoms now?
No, literally after like a week after I found out, I was throwing up. I couldn't even drink water, so it got to the point where I was like eating watermelon.
Mm-hmm.
Like then I realized, okay, seltzer water I can keep down, and then I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't keep that down anymore. So then I tried alkaline water. So it
Mm-hmm.
was just like a lot of like trial and error on
Mm-hmm.
what I could and couldn't. The
Mm-hmm.
nausea was bad, but it only lasted 2 weeks, and
Oh, that well,
after
that was
that,
good. I mean, I've
like
known people that lasted the whole pregnancy, right?
I
So
know.
I know. Did you have, okay, so like the first trimester was pretty smooth besides the 2 weeks
Hmm.
of, we'll just consider bad stomach bug.
Yeah.
Um, how about, okay, so now we're headed into the second trimester, right? Did
Yeah.
anything significantly change for you? I mean, besides your normal routine, now you can't eat certain foods or you can't,
Yeah.
did anything that really stand out, like any ache, pain, anything that the doctor said, hey, like monitor this or,
Yeah.
be careful with this or,
I feel like my pregnancy was really boring
hmm
only because second trimester was fun. Like I had no symptoms.
right.
My
And
energy
and
was
that's most
back.
of the time. You're like
Yeah.
the first trimester you're struggling, right? Like although
Yeah.
I was lucky, I had the easiest pregnancy ever. Like literally the easiest. It was so wonderful. I felt fabulous the whole time,
You
except
never
for
had,
being never had a day of morning sickness.
no
No.
way. That's
The only
insane.
I was really tired the first trimester, like
Yeah.
that was the only thing, but I knew literally before I even took the test. I just knew. It was just I
You
just
had a
knew.
feeling?
I had a feeling. I just knew. Yeah. I just
I
my
wish I
gut
had that.
told me. And then
Yeah.
like so but I felt fine. So like I think for
Mhm.
most women, a lot of them that don't have that have a pretty normal pregnancy pretty feel pretty good during the second one,
A
like it's like
second.
like okay, like I could do this again, like
Yeah.
after and then so that's good that did your anything in your routine change as far as like you're eating, like I know some people skip breakfast or were you one of those people that like had to eat? Like, were you?
Yes, I had to eat breakfast.
Mm-hmm.
Like I needed breakfast or else I would be cranky.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't like chicken.
No.
I didn't like the taste. Like I don't know.
No, yeah. So we have somebody in the office pregnant now, and she like lives off of chicken, but
Really?
yeah, but it's like some things certain things
She
chicken
can't have.
forms of chicken she can't eat anymore.
Mm,
It's just weird. So okay, so second trimester is great. Now we're
yeah.
sliding into third. It's hot.
Yeah.
It's yeah, like okay. So how were you mentally and physically feeling third trimester?
I was over it. By the third trimester, I thought this is horrible. And because I was pregnant during the summer, I think that played a factor. So
Mm-hmm.
everyone's doing, outside, and I wanted to be indoors. Like, it's too hot for me.
Yeah,
I'm too big. I don't want to be in social functions.
right.
My back is hurting.
Yeah.
Like, my stomach is big. I don't know what to wear. That's when everything like sunk in, and I'm like, this sucks. I am ready for her to be born. Like,
Right,
this is
yeah.
terrible. And then my back was just, I felt like my back was constantly hurting. Like it was terrible.
Really.
Hmm.
Ugh. Now, how about so that was really your only aches and pains,
Hmm.
no sickness or anything. So
Hmm.
let's go to day of labor. Like, I mean, everyone has a different story, right? Were you
Yeah.
home? Were you out? Did the doctor send you? Like, how did that go?
I
Did you know
actually
you were in
didn't know.
labor?
I didn't. I didn't know I was in labor. I'm just missing all the signs. So I woke up at 4 and I felt pressure, but people are always telling me that once you have contractions, you'll know. Like it'll hurt, it's terrible, you'll feel a
Hmm.
lot of pain. And I just didn't feel that. And I was waiting. Like I was waiting for myself to like feel the pain and
Hmm.
whatever they were telling me. But I just felt like I had to poop,
Hmm.
basically.
Hmm.
I felt like I needed to push but couldn't. And
Right.
so I just waited
Yeah.
and it wasn't unbearable.
Right.
So that lasted for a while, like a couple hours. And then I was like, you know what? What if these are contractions?
Hmm.
So I like had the contraction, I downloaded the contraction timer and it tells you, it's like, oh, you can be in labor soon, start packing, eat a
Right.
light breakfast, blah, blah, whatever. And then I like continued to monitor it and I said, okay, time to go to the hospital.
I didn't
And
even
I
know
got
they
that.
had that. Like that is
They do.
insane. Hmm.
Because I don't know when, like I don't like timing myself, so
Right.
having that timer and just pressing the button was a lot easier for me. And I probably got that, okay, time to go to the hospital 4 or 5 times, but I chose to ignore it because I'm like, what if they send me back? You
Right.
know, this doesn't feel like contractions.
Right.
So maybe they'll just send me back. And then it's now like 9 a.m.
Hmm.
or 10 a.m. and I'm walking the dog. And I tell Daniel, I'm like, okay, I think you should pack soon. Like, we need to pack our things just in case. And he's like,
Right.
why? I'm like, oh, because I've been feeling pressure since
Right.
4.
Right.
But I don't think it's contraction, so we should just go to Chick-fil-A. So I got Chick-fil-A before we go to the
Oh my
hospital.
goodness.
And we were gonna stay home, but we got into an argument because he wanted me to go to the hospital. He's like, no, like, you can be having contractions. You need to go. And I'm like, no, these aren't contractions, blah,
Hmm.
blah.
Hmm.
We ended up going, and then when we got to the hospital, I told them, I was like, I think these are contractions, but I'm not sure. And they're like, oh, okay, like, we can check. The
Hmm.
lady checked, and I was like 6 centimeters dilated. She goes, girl, you're in labor. Like, and you're just chilling.
Well, that's a
Like,
good thing. That's a good thing. So as labor progresses, obviously they keep you there.
yeah.
Did they had to break your water or
It broke, but I
like
didn't know that my water broke. I thought, I was like, oh my God, did I pee myself?
I did the same thing, but I was home. I had no pressure or anything. That's what sent me to the hospital is because my water just randomly, like something on the TV, it
Yeah.
just broke. It on the floor. Like I was standing there and it just
Yeah.
like broke.
And it was weird because I was like alone in the room.
Hmm.
And as soon as they came in, my
Hmm.
water broke. And I'm like, oh my God, did I pee myself? Like, did they startle me that I peed myself or did my water break?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's a wild ride, right? It's like
Yeah.
insane. Insane. Okay, so now baby's here.
Yeah.
She arrives, right? So now you're getting ready to go home. But let's back up a little bit. So before baby comes, like how did you prepare for her? Were you like what was like most important to you? Was it the nursery? Was it her car seat? Was it the stroller? Was it everything? Was it, like her crib? Like
Yeah.
what did you see? Every mom has focuses on like one thing that is most important. Was it getting a new car? Like, like
Yeah.
what was it?
I think everything just had to be spotless clean. Like,
Okay.
I don't really care for cars.
Right.
So if like the car is dusty, who cares?
Yeah.
But no, I was like cleaning the vents. Like, everything had to be spotless when she
Yeah.
came
Yeah.
because I was just worried, she can get
Yeah.
sick. Like, we need to make
Yeah.
sure everything's good.
Right.
But I think with the nursery, I wasn't like pressed on those
Right.
little details. Yeah.
Right. So, okay, so now you're in the hospital, time to bring baby home. So now reality is about to set in, right? No more
Yeah.
hospital help,
The
no
thing is, they
more.
didn't help.
Well, I mean,
I
no more. I mean, right? They don't. But if you had a question, they would,
Yeah, they were.
they would ask, right? So you're there
Yeah.
still in the comfort of someone knowing what they're doing, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, I've talked to people that didn't even know how to change a diaper, right? So,
Yeah.
I don't know if Daniel knew how to change a diaper. So like,
Uh,
so now you bring her home, right? So now
yeah,
you both are staring at this baby, like, okay. Like how did you navigate? Like, let's talk about your navigation through how you were going to set her on a schedule. Like, was that a factor? Like, was that important to you guys? Okay, did you guys kind of
definitely.
like, talk about like, okay, we're going to do this. We're not going to hold her when we put her to sleep. Like, kind of go through how you guys plan for her arrival and, time for her to come home.
Yeah, I think I watch a lot of TikTok, which is
Okay.
insane, but I watch a lot of TikTok um on like on babies and how they need to be swaddled,
Mm-hmm.
like for them to go to sleep and like establishing a bedtime routine so that they
Right.
can go to bed. And then my sister-in-law gave us this book, which was really, really helpful. It's like just bullet points of like the baby needs to be in 68 to 72 Fahrenheit, like for the
What
ideal
book was that?
temperature.
Do you remember
No, I don't. I think it's like baby's first steps, maybe.
okay.
I don't know. It
Did Daniel read any books or
He
did
did.
he
He read that book. He also read
did
that
he?
book. I made
Okay.
him read that book, but it's a really good book because it's not like it's not thick.
Right.
It's not that you have to spend hours,
Right.
going through the pages. It's
Yeah.
just from 0 to 12 months. It tells
Okay.
you exactly what milestones they need to reach, what to expect.
Hmm.
So it was like really informative, and that's what I used. But also, I think every baby's different, so we've
Right.
just been cruising. We've been taking
Right.
it day by
So
day. Because
that leads
sometimes,
me to my next question. So have you solidly in the first 4 weeks, I mean, you're a brand new mom, right? You
yeah,
haven't really figured anything out, but have you figured out anything that is like working? Like whether it's how you guys are managing time to Daniel works from home, so he's there to help
yeah,
you, right? So have you
yeah,
guys figured out a schedule like how do you eat? How do you like do you sleep? Like, how do you know what I mean? Like, have you guys
yeah,
mastered anything in that little small period of time that you're like, okay,
in those
well,
two
this is going to
hours.
work for us. How do you eat? Take a
Yeah.
shower. Do you take turns? Like, someone is feeding her while one's taking the shower, or,
Yeah.
how are you navigating through the first 4 weeks?
We definitely take turns, but also I think we're just Daniel and I are too like we're opposite. So he's a night owl and I'm not.
Hmm.
So from 10 to 12, I'm asleep, or from 10 to 2, I'm asleep.
Okay.
And then Daniel takes that shift.
Okay.
And then after 2, I'll take the morning shift. So that's how we navigate nighttime feedings. And then during the day, she's been pretty good. So she takes her naps, and during
Hmm.
those 2 hours, I'll be able to like wash her bottles or cook breakfast. And then I just started to make easier meals. So a
Okay.
lot of croissants, bagels.
Hmm.
I don't make pancakes unless I'm eating frozen waffles.
Yeah.
So just easy meals I can cook in an hour or less.
Yeah, so I mean I don't know, kind of getting off topic a little bit, but I was cleaning the house the other day and I found this book and it was like one pan, like you have one ingredient, like one main ingredient, and then you can use it
Yeah,
all week. Like I forgot what the name of it was, but it was really helpful. Like you just okay, let's say chicken is your ingredient, your main
yeah,
ingredient, and then you cook that, but then you have other things all week to, like you have to
yeah,
love, I mean, I know you have to love what you're eating, but
yeah.
um and I found that like even when I cook something, even now, I mean, I have,
Mhm.
Layla's 14, but if I have like leftover spaghetti, instead of tossing it, I'll
Yeah,
freeze it, even if it's 1 or 2 servings. So that's something
yeah.
that like you could rip out of the freezer, right?
And
Like,
just eat it. The crazy thing is I used to never eat leftovers. I hated leftovers. After a day or two I had to toss them because I thought it was old.
yeah.
But now I live for leftovers because like there's times when I can't cook.
Yeah, that's
Like
what I'm
I just
saying.
have to
Like
eat.
even if you know like you're not in the mood, like let's say you make like spaghetti,
Yeah.
and you know that you're not going to eat it the next day. Like I just toss it in a freezer bag,
Yeah.
label it, and then put it in the freezer. So even if it's the following week, it's a meal that you could pull out
Right.
and
Anytime.
and eat it.
Yeah.
It's just because it does get very busy.
Hmm.
So even with navigating through this, you guys are home together, but taking care of
Yeah.
baby, he's working from home, right? And
Yeah.
you're taking care of baby, trying to figure this whole, parenting thing out. How do you guys make time for like for each other? Like, have you figured that out yet? Or like, is it when she's sleeping, or
Yeah,
you
it's
just haven't
definitely when
figured it
she
out? If you
sleeps.
haven't figured,
It's definitely when she sleeps.
yeah,
And during the weekends, especially during the weekends, because he's off. So
yeah,
we'll do like a family day or something like
okay,
that. But
yeah.
definitely when she's in bed.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough at any age really because they depend on you so much, right? And
Yeah,
so it's whether it's at this age feeding or it's just trying to get them to once she gets to eat, like trying to get them to each stage is a different navigate. You have to learn. You're still learning. I'm
yeah,
still learning, and like, and I have a long way to go. Like she's like I said, she's 14, so now I'm trying to navigate through the teenage years, right? So now she
oh,
wants to be with friends, but you want to give her that independence, but you still want it to make sure that you're still her parent, right? And she's still
Yeah.
young. She's your child, so you got to make sure that she's still doing the right thing and she's making good choices. So
Yeah.
it's tough. Um, so is there anything that you're fearful of in the next coming months as far as like, at a stage, in the next 12 months that you're
Yeah.
really like, ooh, is it the teething stage? Is it just the solid food? Is there anything that you're looking forward to and a little bit fearful of in the next 12,
Yeah.
11 months?
Honestly, right now I'm so scared of the season. Like
Hmm.
the flu season, RSV, COVID on the rise. Like
Hmm.
I want to keep her in a tiny bubble
Hmm.
and just stay home. But at the same time, I know fresh air is also good. So
Yeah.
I'm like very scared of like people holding her and
And that's your
going out
right
in
as a
public.
parent. And that's okay to, like everyone's excited to see the baby,
Yeah.
right? But it's your right as a parent to say, "Hey, look, I know," and without offending anyone, right? Like, guys, it's flu season. I just really want to protect her. She's so young,
Yeah.
like everyone will have the chance to see her in the spring. But I just don't, and I don't want anyone holding her right now. No one's going to say, look at you funny. I mean, that's your right as her
Yeah.
mom, right? So
Yeah.
either you don't bring her around. It's okay. You're a first time mom. You're trying to figure it out. Just like,
Yeah.
look, I don't want to be around people during the flu season and everything else just because I don't want to get sick either.
Right.
So don't be afraid to tell somebody, hey, look, like I understand everybody wants to see her, but I don't want to bring her around so many germs. It's
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
There's nothing
Like,
wrong with that.
and then I know a lot of people are saying like the teething stage sucks because like the fever and the pussiness and she's just in
Yeah.
pain.
Yeah. I think it really depends. Like you said, each kid is different, right? I mean, I don't
Yeah.
really remember the teething stage, but I just know with like my nephews, like I think where Luke was a little bit more, he would play, but a
Mm-hmm.
little bit more, he was more quiet, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I think Luke was more irritable, if that made
Mm-hmm.
sense. Leo would still play, but like he's very independent player, right? Like he
Yeah.
plays by himself. He doesn't need, so you don't really know if something's bothering him unless he's like really crying, you know what I mean? But he never
Yeah.
really cried about his teeth, but I just remember the
Oh.
drool and just a
Yeah.
lot of drooling. So I think, I mean, and maybe maybe she'll be a good girl and not
And
give you
just not cry.
any.
But the thing is that I'm not scared of the whole like crying or
Yeah.
teething stage
It's
or
just because you can't help her, right? Like
yeah,
yeah. That
or
it is.
like
Hmm.
even the colic stage, which I know some babies go through it around this time,
Hmm.
but I'm not really scared of it. I always tell Daniel, like, nothing's worse than pregnancy. I've had the smoothest pregnancy possible, but mentally, I felt like so alone, only because I'm a young mom. So
Right.
my friends, I couldn't really talk to my friends about like what I was feeling because they couldn't really understand that.
Right.
And then I just feel like now young moms aren't as common. Maybe because my friends aren't going
Right.
through it. So, and then Daniel is a guy, so it's not like even
Right.
though he's a great partner and he's like constantly there, he doesn't understand
Right.
what
He's
it's like
not
to
a
carry a
woman. Yeah.
human. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I always tell him like at least now I have someone to go through this with. Like if the
Right.
baby's crying, both of us hear the baby
Right.
crying,
Right.
or if she's fussy and like in pain, we both have to deal with it.
Right.
So I don't think raising her is as scary because I don't feel alone.
Yeah. No, and that could be the same as a mom, like so even when I had my daughter, a lot of my friends either had their kids really young
Mm-hmm.
or they had older. Like my one girlfriend
Yeah.
had a baby at like 45, her first
No
baby.
way. Really?
So yeah, so like some so it was weird. Like even with my sister,
Mm-hmm.
they were already like big kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like so they were, and then Matt, his kids are 8, 6 year Layla's 8 years older than them or,
Yeah.
so it's tough, especially when you only have one, right? There's
Hmm.
like she's like in that in between. She's too old for the young ones and too young for the big ones.
Right, yeah.
So, but each stage is fun. You'll get there. But, like I said, don't be afraid to tell somebody. In the end, you're the parent, right? So, whatever you
Yeah.
guys decide, people have to live with. So, if you don't want
Yeah.
people holding them, no matter who it is, no matter who it is, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's because in the end, you'll have to deal with the sick baby, right? So,
Right.
you have to do what you feel comfortable with. And by the second one, you'll be like, oh, this is a breeze.
It's
Yeah,
fine,
go
right.
ahead. You take all the precautions with
Oh,
the first one. And then the
right.
second one, it's a little different, right? Because you know what to expect at that point, you
Yeah,
know?
I
So,
hope so. I'm such a type A person, so everything has to be right. Like from the amount of layers she has on her body to the temperature in the room,
yeah.
everything has to be perfect for her.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like,
Yeah.
and you might always be that way, but if you're not, you'll relax a little bit more. Like even with the pregnancy, like every ache and pain, I used to be like, oh goodness, like I hope everything's okay. But then
Yeah.
after a while, you're like, oh, all right,
This is
well,
normal.
not that
Yeah.
you don't worry and care, it's just you're not alarmed by everything
Mm.
every little thing. So, you know. So, is there any suggestions or tips that you, as a young mom, can share with an expecting mom that may be listening, or a new mom,
Yeah.
so she doesn't feel alone?
Honestly, I think it's just to take it day by day, and you don't have to figure everything out. You could listen to all these TikToks or all these people, and everyone's going to give you advice, but when you have your baby, it's your baby, and they're going to be different.
Yeah. So no matter how many stories somebody shares, it's like you could take little bits and pieces and
Yeah.
like say, oh, okay, well, I remember so and so saying that they experienced this, but until you have your own child and experience it on your own, you can't grasp, understand what they're even talking about.
Right.
Right? It's true, right?
Yeah.
It's you can't you don't understand even labor. What was labor like? And you try to explain like I remember it being painful,
Uh-huh.
but I don't remember the pain.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like so but enjoy it. It goes by real I know you hear it, but it really does go by very, very fast.
No, I believe it. I can't believe that she's already a month
Yeah.
because I felt like I just pushed her out.
Well, you did not that long
I
ago, right?
did, but
Oh my goodness. That's so great. Well, thank you, Nika. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. We appreciate you joining us.
thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course.